Welcome to another episode of Top Coach. I'm Claudia and Cimenti, professional coach of Luxembourg, and today here with me is Ulrike Demuth, a team coach from next to Hamburg in Germany. Today we are going to talk about parallel process. What is it, and should you care about it? Let's get started. Ulrike, hi, lovely to see you.
Hi, Claudia.
Parallel process. One of those weird things, but it is nevertheless really real. Can you maybe introduce us a little bit to what parallel process is?
Yeah, I try my very best. It's if the two of us are team coaches and in an engagement, we somehow feel something weird happens between us, then there's a study telling that what happens between us is also likely to happen in the other team. So we are kind of mirroring what happens in the team. So if we come across certain things, we should always ask, okay, if it happens between us, what does it mean for the team? And it's a chance for the team to see actually by looking at us, oh, this could actually happening in our midst as well. It just needs to be put out into the open. So it's another perspective of team coaching, which is hiding a bit because it's not so obvious. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it's kind of like we pick up on things that are happening in the team. And because we are so very often so extremely focused, I mean, like beyond focused on what is happening in the team, but it's nevertheless happening on an unconscious level that all of a sudden it manifests within us. But we recognize it as something external to us or something that just doesn't make sense to have happened. Let's say that maybe there is the team, even on the surface, looks very agreeable, but you and I all of a sudden start feeling really irritated, and it doesn't make sense because I'm not irritated with you, you're not irritated with me. The team looks very agreeable. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, are we picking up on an unsaid, hidden irritation that lives under the surface of the team? And then, I could very well see, like, Ulrike, do you feel irritated? And you would say, yeah. And I'm like, where does that come from? And then we would actually start talking about it, where that irritation might potentially come from. And because if parallel process is acknowledged and named by us, then very often the team then has this kind of aha moment, right? All of a sudden they recognize about something that's happening. Is that in line with your experience?
It is, and it's kind of a sign of honesty coming into the room, because we put the issue from the team to us, and it makes then easier to talk about it and give it back to the team, because if it's under the surface beneath the carpet, then it's a chance to take it out into the open, but very carefully, and first with a different picture. So we use us and then give that back to the team and see what they do out of it.
Yeah, it's just, and it might not necessarily go very far. Maybe we felt it very strongly and it's not. But the point is that we talk about it and we open this discussion. And since we are open about it, and hopefully, the team learns over time that it's okay to be open at the very least when the team coaches are around, then, it's an opportunity to talk about it. Because one of the issues that very often happens is that nevertheless there's people in the team that do not feel aligned with the consensus, and they feel kind of forced, or they force themselves. It might not be not an external requirement, but nevertheless they align themselves, and then they feel this frustration because it's not in line with their view, it's not in line with their emotional intelligence, let's say, right, with their cultural intelligence potentially, and that frustration sits there. And you don't know if that's in one member, in two, in all of them. On the surface, they all agree, they all swim in line and things like that. But what is happening underneath? And as coaches, we sometimes really do pick up on that. We do pick up on that. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to me when I feel it. Sometimes it's even like I need to sit with it for a while before I recognize, oh, that's what's possibly going on there. It's not always that we pick it up the second it happens, but it's a definite thing. It's so hard to put your finger on it and to recognize it right then and there. But chances are that we pick up on some of the symptoms and the essence of these team dynamic issues.
Yeah, and even if you can't name it, you could pick up on it and say, well, actually, I pick up on something and I still have a question mark, and put this question mark into the open. And sometimes people are quite happy that someone is doing that, because they then have the chance actually to put their question marks also on the table. And sometimes you have a lot of question marks in the middle of the room. So those hiding elephants are out of a sudden right there in the presence. And then, because everyone now is made to see them, they also can put names to it. And they are not as afraid of those hiding elements in the team anymore. They discover actually it's nice to see them and to be able to go around them and, well, work with them and say, well, what is it? Can we live with them? Can we accept them? Is it normal? Is it our style in the group and everyone admits they are there? Or should we solve them, and whatever the team needs for their own purpose, it's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, in practice, it sees, I could very much imagine, if I'm in front of the team, that I would say, well, we just all kind of came to an agreement here, but do you also, I really do feel uneasy. Do you feel uneasy too? And they might not, but then again, they might, right? And so it's just something that putting it out there, and offering it up as a point of discussion. And ultimately what happens is remains to be seen, right? But at least it's out there. And it's something that surprised me in the beginning when I did the team coaching. Was it a surprise for you as well before you learned about it, or did you already kind of discover it for yourself before you actually learned about it?
I discovered it kind of because of this fishbowl technique. When you actually don't know what's sitting in the room and you don't know what to do, then you ask your colleague, well, let's do a time off and everybody can listen to us. And then we discuss our feelings. And then we invite people to say, well, what you just listened to, what happened? And this is kind of the same procedure. And whenever I use this technique, I always have great outcome out of that. Not me, but also the team has, because normally nobody is invited to watch two other people talking about a situation. This is really rare in normal life. And if you use that, I think this is a little bit behind that, because what resonates between us might also be with the team. And then it's what you said, that the team might say, no, actually, we don't have this. wait a minute, we see this different. Yeah, great, wonderful. So we have the discussion. Oh, good.
Exactly.
I don't need to be right. It's just me having a question mark and I would like to discuss it. So I really liked the idea that this is a normal psychological process. And well, you can use it anywhere. And if the team is aware of this technique, they also could use it later on, because whenever they have this feeling, and they learn to put it into the open in any meeting they have or any encounters with another human being, then they might learn actually that to trust their feeling, and also to trust that either we have the same or the different, it doesn't matter, as long as you are curious about each other and not judging on each other. So if you have the safetiness of this judgment out of the room, which so destroys sometimes the relationships between people, I also tend to say, well, judgment is okay, but what about curiosity instead of judging things, and admit that things are not good or bad, just different. This difference, really to like this difference in the world, regardless with whatever subject. And I think this helps. And this parallel process is a good way to put this into the open, and to be aware that this is normal and that everything resonates with everything. It's just the way it is. It's our antenna, which is open. And it's not the coach's antenna, it's a human being antenna. Everyone has it. But some people don't use it for a while. They have their head on the head and they don't admit that they also have antennas, and they are somehow hiding, but they are still existing. And I think this parallel process puts those stuff into the open and gives a different quality of the coaching relationship.
Yeah, especially since we are so acutely aware of it, I think it sensitizes our antenna, because it's just that part of our awareness always also includes that. Does listening, because we focus a lot on the client, but we also, as the team, but we focus a lot on ourselves, on our co-coach, on the relationship with the co-coach, on the relationship with the team. So it needs to be on all those different levels, and just realizing that there's all these flows and energies and things like that going forth and back and permeating the air, essentially, right? That it's good to be aware of it. It's not just about the spoken word. It's not just about what's written on the flip chart. It goes way, way, way beyond that. Great. Yeah. Anything else you wanted to add to the parallel process, or do you think we kind of caught the gist of it?
I was just wondering, when I was beginning with the coaching experience, I'm just going very far away from today, that I was wondering, when I was watching experienced coaches doing the stuff in front of us, telling us how things are going, and also admitting that when you do coaching, you must be aware about those different scenarios in the air. Also watch yourself, what happens with your stomach, with your feet, with your tension of the body. And I think this relates very much, because I was asking myself at that point of time, how on earth can I watch myself if I'm just about to ask certain questions? I need to watch the room, I need to watch the people, or the person, which wasn't team coaching them, but the person, which I thought is difficult in itself. And today I'm discussing with you about this with a team, and not only with that. So if anybody is being afraid of not having the feeling, trust yourself, because you only need a second with your brain to step back and say, well, what actually is happening with me? And if you do it frequently, you have this exercise, you see, there's a tension, and I have whatever, my neck is kind of twitched, and my stomach is somehow not nice, or my feet are doing very weird things. And then you jump into the room back again, and just being aware that you are not yourself, really. And this can be trained. So the invitation is not being afraid of not being able to watch this. So trust yourself, because that's the specialty, I think, about human beings, that we can do that. It's not in parallel though, because I don't trust the idea of doing stuff at the same time, but the sequences are very, very small. So you might have the feeling that it happens all in parallel, and you are able to watch that, and you are able to do that with your brain. Just quiet yourself a little bit down and be aware what exactly is sitting in the room, including yourself and your partner coach.
And that's also why having a co-coach is nice, because it allows you sometimes these brief moments of respite, right? Of just being able to check in with yourself, get the lay of the land, get a feeling for the energy and the flow of the whole engagement, right? It is something that requires experience. It's not something, yes, we have it naturally as people, and we shouldn't overcomplicate it, but it takes the experience, that because if 120% of our brain is like stressed out about what question to ask next, of course you will not have the calm and the awareness and the mindfulness to really check in and to deal with the team. I always think that team dynamic is a little bit like catching the wind, right? It's you have to observe what's happening around it. You can't catch the wind, but you can hear the leaves rustling and you can feel it on your skin and things like that. So there's a huge complexity there, and I would actually even go as far as to say that before you really jump into team coaching, maybe build your experience a little bit with one-on-one coaching or with smaller teams and so on, because like we said also in previous videos already, it is very messy, it's very big, there's a lot of information that you have to process as a team coach as you're in the middle of an engagement. And this checking in, you have to have the time and the hear whistle to do it from time to time. But then, with some practice, it's going to become second nature and just part of who you are once you put on that coaching hat. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about my past again. I'm a lot of thinking in my past right now. I don't know why. But what you say triggers it. I'm thinking about body language at the moment, and I'm using it frequently in training sessions, if I do training sessions in between coaching sessions. And this body language thing really helped me to develop my feelings within a very, very complex situation, to step back just seconds and see what happens in my body, and really use that with the team and say, well, actually, what do you feel right now? And if you don't want to talk about it, look at your feet right now, just freeze and see what happens in the room. Because most of the time, all the feet are up or in whatever weird position if the tension is really high. And then either people think, oh my goodness, we can actually see it, even if we can't give it a voice, it's in the room. And because most of the time I can do it in a humorous way, it's regarding the feet really, and everybody looks at different sneakers and so on. But the weird thing is that people see, oh, it's really serious, and actually it's kind of nice and humorous. We can laugh about it. The tension is out. The conflict is still there, but really nobody can hide anymore because all the feet were up. Everyone was sitting like that. Everyone had a very frozen mind, and that's nice to use. And if also I would recommend, if you don't feel with yourself, with your body language, how you just feel in this very second, whether you are relaxed or not, I would recommend to do this, because it's a different aspect of life, and I think it enhanced my coaching a lot. If I have no questions to ask in my brain, I always ask, okay, how do you feel right now? What's the matter? And out of a sudden, the questions are all back, because I can talk about my feet, about my arms, about whatever, and have this nice different change of perspective in the room. And I saw that with in the training we did together, also that they use this relaxed thing before you start something. And you can also use that in a conflict situation. If you have the trust and safetyness in the room,
Yeah.
then you can say, well, actually, I can sniff it. Something is there. Look at your feet. What's there? Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
So out on the table, what's the elephant in the room? And I have even the elephant in, I don't know whether you see it. I use this elephant.
You have an elephant.
I have an elephant, yeah. So
I'm gonna go get mine so you can see mine. Hold on. So you have an elephant.
Yes, it's very dusty, I must say. So I haven't. Oh, okay. There's another one. So hi, here you are.
Elephants in the room.
That's mine. And I normally put it in the middle of the room if I do present stuff. And I just realized this is very dusty. So obviously I haven't used it. I use it all the time, but it's sitting there. And
Yep.
is there an elephant in the room? And then I do the camera to that. So I need to do a bit nicer thing with you. Yeah. But this is also a reason for being in the room. And now you go out. You are not there in the room. Yeah. You have your own garden.
No elephant. They're all resolved. They're all
not at the moment. But it could be a good sign if we would work together. That's I just think, oh my God, Claudia, I think we have this in the room. What do you think? Okay, but not now.
I do love props. I must say.
That was a sweet one. Your elephant.
No, because I always think it's nice to like talk about that instead of talking about you. Yeah. I use props or flip charts and things like that, or moderation cards that we place on the floor a lot when I deal with clients one-on-one, let's say, or even small teams, because it's like I stand next to the client and we talk about that thing over there together. We talk together about that. And it's a whole other thing than just I sit here and you sit there and we talk face to face. It's just togetherness is enhanced with that. And so we talked about parallel process and elephants in the room, but it's truly true. We can pick up on some of the cues energetically, subconsciously, through our body, through the way that we sense the room, and then we can leverage that to just put it out in the open. And sometimes, and very often in my experience, it happens to actually be a topic that is beneficial to be brought to the surface. So do you think this might be a good place to wrap this up for today, Ulrike? I
think that's the perfect way to do that. I think we added quite a lot. So. Yes.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much. Hope you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you drop us a line at topcoachluxembourg.lu/YouTube with a question or a suggestion for a future show, that would be just great. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.